Hey, it's Chris. Crowdfunding roundup. This is going to be a great week. It's going to be a spicy week. We're going to have some hot takes. And if you don't like talking about board games, I don't even know why you would want a YouTube channel in the first place. This is what's the best part about it, right? Is talking about it and having a good freaking time and giving you some hot takes to go along with it. Let's go! I was going to start off with a good rant, but let's go to DCeased. And speaking of Simon, this is how I think Simon views us. Right? Anyone else, right? Or maybe we should just put Kickstarter / Gamefound in place of that. Anyway, okay, now that we've got that out of the way, what do you need to know? It's not doing as well as Marvel Zombicide. It's not going to do as well as Marvel Zombicide. Why is that? No one knows half of the DC universe. That's one thing that Marvel has done so much better than DC in a nutshell, right? When you start going to the stretch goals and on like the first or second day, people are like, I don't even know that character. Like, that's a sign that DC's marketing side of things, branding, just isn't really as good. The other question that is sort of the main elephant in the room with this one, what the freaking deuce is different about this game than Marvel's, right? You would think, I would think, that would be front and center, smack you in the face, because, you know, if you're looking at this as a Zombicide junkie, it's a weird phrase, but if you're looking at this as going, I have Marvel, I have second edition, I have Invaders, I have, you know, Under the Sea. Oh, they're going to steal that one. You know, Under the Sea, that's about the only terrain type they haven't done, right? Completely underwater Zombicide. You heard it here first. But what I'm saying is, why, if you have another edition, would you get this one? And you would think that that would be first and foremost something to just show people and say, hey guys, buy another one of these because instead it's just buy another one because DC, essentially. That's like Dana White shouting and complaining about Peloton releasing people and firing employees, right? Like Dana White has any 2 feet to stand on. Anyway, you know what you get from watching Reddit videos right before this, but they give you it. I mean, it's the anti-life equation. It's a techno-organic virus combination turns people into zombies. All of the Lex Luthor employees are your generic zombies, and you've got a mix of heroes that are zombies, bad guys that are zombies, heroes, and bad guys that are also, well, heroes. And the tricky part about this is no matter what you're going to be doing, you need to have 4. Now you can play with less. It says 4. Doesn't matter if you have 1 person, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, or 6 people. Well, 5 people and 6 people, that's a little different. But 1 through 4, you're going to be playing with 4 characters potentially. Now, you can play with less characters, they say, but it's going to increase the difficulty significantly. The power set, the creep, the experience meter, the unlocking of your powers is very, very similar to Marvel's. There's very little difference there, as I can tell just reading through. What they have is the work in progress rulebook. The main difference that I can see skimming through the rulebook is that they're going to have these secret mission cards that are like hidden within these decks. And the main way you're ending the scenario is that you have to complete all of the missions, whatever that sort of states. And some scenarios will take out some of those missions. Some of them will add in the missions. The basic moving, take actions, your 3 actions of whatever you want to do. Everybody take their turn, and then the bad guys go is, you know, relativistically the same. $130, really, you know, you're paying essentially probably anywhere between $70 to $75 plus shipping for the stretch goals. And that's what you have to look at right now as, why would I back this game? Well, am I willing to spend $75 or, you know, essentially more like $115, because they're quoting shipping at around $40, I believe, right now for North America for a stretch goal box. And you know you're going to be getting a stretch goal box, but again, especially if you're not as familiar with the DC, do you really care that, you know, none of these characters are going to be known to you? And there's fine stuff. I mean, just like with some of the Marvel stuff, they're doing heroes and villains on both sides. Like there's already an Aquaman villain, and one of the stretch goals I think is Aquaman as a good guy right there. See, I'm not wrong. You know, by the time this campaign ends, there's going to be probably 5 stretch goals. There's already a crossover tie-in with regular Zombicide Dark Metal Knights, if you're familiar with that comic book line, which is basically all of these other alternative universes where Batman becomes a combination. Here it is, Dark Knights Metal. So like in another universe, he's like the Dark Knight Batman Green Lantern at the same time, and then he's Dark Knight Flash, where basically he steals their powers in some bad nefarious way. Rulebook is there. Article talks about the crossover there. They're going to play it, or they played it already, and they have a copy as well to play. So you can check that out if you will. Optional buys. I didn't even realize this. They've already thrown out one optional buy, which is completely exclusive. And did you notice this though? They've changed their little exclusive logo from the green logo to the yellow logo. I don't know if that has any significance whatsoever, but I just thought I'd point it out. And if you click on this one right here, the Unkillables, it's got like what? Cheetah, and it's got Deadpool, and it's got like Bane. So it's got some in there. Solomon Grundy, Creeper, Deathstroke, Bane, and Vandal Savage being thrown in there. Are like, which one of these are not like the other? Because then you've got like some second and third tier here with Captain Cold, Mirror Master, and the Cheetah. No offense, but like none of those are, you know what I'm saying. Daily snaps, because they're probably not going to hit the goal of their Marvel zombie side, so they're going to have to do that ever since the whole failure that was Trudvang. Whatever, you're going to get stretch goals. I didn't even know Miss Martian. Didn't even know Miss Martian was a thing. Static wasn't even in the comic books, so they're just pulling from everywhere. Shipping is whatever. This page is going to fill up with stretch goals, as well as those daily unlocks, as well as the expansion content here by the time this campaign ends. I'll probably do a Should You Back as well. I don't know. It's easy content. And I get to rant some more. Anyway, speaking of rants, let's go over here. You know, to get on the top here, this really irks me. Like, Gamefound, if you want to encourage new traffic, like some of these projects, right? Like Secret of the Lost Tomb, Stars of Akarios, Elder Scrolls, people are going to click on those anyway. You don't need to hype those up. People are going to look for those regardless. I mean, the Nova Atos relaunching at the last chance here, I think that's kind of suspect and kind of weird. Not going to speak about that one, though, at this time. But then if you want to know, hey, what actually launched this week? Active. Well, yeah, okay, then you start to get down to here of Singularity. But Unreliable Wizard, that ended like a month ago. And you're throwing in the other stuff, including Eldfall Chronicles here, as a late pledge. So, like, which one of these are new? How are these all? I mean, it's just, there are clear borders and delineations that Gamefound still does not make very well on this page, including just as simple as canceling your forking pledge. Kickstarter, cancel, done. Gamefound, cancel. Is it in my cart? Cancel. Is it in my cart? Cart cleared. Oh, not actually canceled though. Is it canceled? Like stuff like that, I'm going to continue to call out because it's not user friendly. You want to attract more people. You want to attract more people eyes over here. Do this better. And I'm not a game designer. I'm not a web designer, but you know, make it clear and obvious, right? It's almost like you're just trying to get them to click on it regardless of if it's open or not. And that's not necessarily appealing. Now that being said, let's go over to Singularity. Yeah, I'm hopping back and forth this week because this is a great game. My video is probably on this page. I don't really know. I haven't really looked at the whole page, to be honest with you. But I wanted to highlight it because it's got $132,000, which you're going to look at this and go, $132,000, isn't that good? This is a two-player asymmetric team versus team where you have 5 heroes that are 3 of active at a time that each have 3 powers that you're going to be cycling through on a turn-by-turn basis with a limited number of actions and energy in order to activate them to combo back and forth to knock out at least 3 of the other persons in order to win it. You can deck construct. It comes with construction already set, though, and it's just kind of a really good game. Hey, look, there's me. It's fantastic. It is. You know, I don't say that lightly. You can quote me. You can hit me up in the comments section. You can talk about it. I don't care. This is my type of game. Like I said in my video from last week, or from the beginning of the week, last week, actually, I'm biased towards this thing, but it's a good one. That's how I feel about things. I think KOA had a quote here too or something. I don't know. Yeah, there you go. King of average. Don't listen to me. You know, he's like 3 times bigger than me. Which means his opinion is 3 times better than mine. So, listen to other people before you listen to me as well. Like I always say, tons of stuff. The asymmetry is just off the charts, and the artwork is absolutely fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I don't get this for art, but if you're going to give me nice art to go along with superb gameplay, that's what I'm going for here. I think they have a couple other modes as well here that they have, collaborating and doing solo. But if you just want to play this head to head, that was the other nice thing appealing wise for this game as opposed to a couple of the others. Like, because each of your characters only has 3, like there's a little less overhead learning. You can just literally say, okay, which of my powers are up? And then, okay, how can I combo them right here? Or, hey, do I know which combo cards I have, and making it even more meta. And so as long as your experience is ish close, you'll be fine. A bunch of different decks and a bunch of different cards, expansions that are going along with it. I mean, this is going to be probably one of my top 10 crowdfunding games that I've played this year on the channel. Games that have not reached people, but like games that I have talked about as the campaigns was running. I'll tell you easily, this is going to be in my top 10. Easily. And it's just that strong of a game as a whole. And so if they can just flush it out between now and production, and $55 isn't too bad, but let's see these other pledge levels because I wasn't really aware of this. $55 is a good. Solo, I don't really like the solo and the co-op being bundled. You know what? Actually, I don't mind solo co-op being bundled separately. It's an expensive solo co-op bundle separately. Now, the expansion edition, that's probably the one I would go for. You have to ask yourself, though, in this game, can you play this game this many times in order to maximize out those cards? Because, again, that's $40 difference there as well. And I'm assuming it doesn't really give the best description on the page. Maybe I missed it as well with the Incursion edition with that expansion. Like, it's sort of a little boss mode-esque thing, but it doesn't tell the details of some of the stuff that's actually in it. And above, I skipped over this. You can see what the expansion content is. And I guess that'd be the other thing, right? Is you're not really getting any savings because it's $40 here between the 55 and the 95s, and then it's another $40 between the 95 and the 135. So it wouldn't be bad to see a discounted price there from that aspect of things, if you're going to offer it individually for $40 anyway. You know, check out the rules, check out the game book, check out all of this stuff. You really have to love this style of game. It's a great one for what it is. It's definitely different than all the other ones I talked about in the video. Yomi, Battlecon Exceed, Wizards of Grimoire. There you go, all that stuff. You know, again, I need to get better thumbnails. You know, I feel like my thumbnails suck comparatively to everyone else's. That's my big deficit there. But yeah, there's my thing on the page. So there you go. I have nothing else to say about this, but go watch my video if you really want to know. The rulebook is right here. They're very responsive. I think they've already addressed some of the concerns about what did they say? Shipping. I think that was the concern. I think the first update just went out and there were some concerns about the shipping statement. So, and they even addressed the little AI art thing down here that they're not really utilizing it. They're going for all the human hands. So, there you go. Singularity. There's a reason I'm talking about it second on this crowdfunding roundup this week. So there you go. We're going to go this one third just because of the way it popped up, because hopping back and forth between Gamefound had to throw that rant in there, but this is Bullet. This is a top 5 game for me all time, period. I love this game. I will own both of these expansions. The big question, as I talked about last weekend on the upcoming, what was, you know, releasing this week on crowdfunding, was why am I going to get it on crowdfunding? Why? And that's the question I still am kind of mixed on. And there's one other thing I just am not quite sure on from that aspect of things, is you have 2 4-character box expansions. In case you're not familiar with what Bullet is, essentially what you're doing in a real-time situation is you're pulling these tokens from a bag, you're slotting them on your board, then you're manipulating them to form certain patterns, shapes, color matches, however you need to then eliminate them off of your board, essentially shoot them at your opponent, because then your opponent gets this huge stack at the end of the round of everything that you've cleared, and you basically pass it around. And there's solo, cooperative, there's boss mode, there's just head-to-head competitive. And it's just freaking fun. You can play a game of like 4-person competitive in like 15 minutes. And it's just freaking amazing. I love it. The asymmetry is amazing as well. I'm using that word too much, but it's just, you know, one of my favorite games of all time, period. The only question I had was this pets one right here. You can see this cat in the left upper corner here as the red one. That's Beethoven. Well, that was one of the promos that they offered separately, like at the beginning of the year. And it's weird because it's the exact same artwork. And if you go down here, this is the confusing thing. I mean, here's these 4. None of these are overlaps. And there's boss modes and things like that. And the 2 new expansions are $45, but it's gonna be like $20 shipping. So it's gonna be like somewhere about $25 to $27 shipped for both of them combined. So that's about what I'd expect for retail. But the question I had was, when you go down here, they even show you, okay, again, that looks very similar to what I have. It doesn't actually address is this the same Beethoven or not? But they go down here further and they show you that, let's get to it. Here's an alternative art Beethoven card, heroine card, that's drawn by Ryan Laukit of Red Raven. And they say it's free if you previously owned the Beethoven promo otherwise, but it's going to be added to your pledge, which is fine. The original Beethoven promo is out of print and only available in Bullet Paw. So it's an alternate art board. It's not actually content. So for someone like me who was originally a buyer of Beethoven, essentially I'm duplicating it, which I guess is fine, but that also seems really weird. That just doesn't work out in my head for some reason. It's not a huge deal by any means, but it kind of does I won't lie, it kind of does peeve me to say, okay, one of the 4 is one I already have in that expansion. And again, the incentive to get it on this crowdfunding campaign is more realistically if you're going in for more than just the expansions, because some of the extra stuff, the shipping is going to be about the same. You can see here that the 2 new expansions is $13, so it's going to run me just under $60 then, $58 shipped. And yeah, I mean, if you're getting the more higher levels of this stuff, it's going to cost you just a hair more, and you're going to save there rather than some of the lower pledge levels alone. Which, if you're not in North America, that actually might be really good, because these prices, especially in Europe and UK, are better than the US's, which is impressive. But that's about it. That's about it. So this is one that, as Cole Worley said, because that's the only way that people listen on Reddit, right? Is that Cole Worley says it. I say it all the time. If you back stuff on crowdfunding, sometimes there's not a great incentive other than freaking supporting an indie publisher and helping them get a bigger cut. I'm ignored to the rooftops, but that's how you get an upvoted post and get some fake internet karma. Anyway, I love this game. This will end up in my collection. I don't know if it's going to be a crowdfunding or a retail though. Probably, I'll probably end up backing. Who am I kidding? Who am I kidding? Adventure Time Card Wars. Cryptozoic is throwing money at the wall and seeing what sticks. They're reprinting some of this. This is basically 6 decks of head-to-head combat of Card Wars from an Adventure Time thematic incorporation, as well as some of the team build-up decks as well. A lot of this stuff was out of print. They're throwing you some deluxeifications. This is a pre-con, but also a build-your-own deck style with 40 cards, 25 health each, and just lane battling, sort of Magic the Gathering-esque, only you have lands that you're going to be placing down, and you have to have enough land, obviously, to summon them, but then you summon your creatures, your heroes, your whatevers on the land itself. And so you have to have a lane and a land that is head-to-head with your opponent, and then you're battling and you're just directly attacking if they don't have anybody in your way. And it gives you just basically your plethora of deck construction options with all of these packs. You can kind of see what they do with all your sort of IP tie-ins and thematic incorporations and all of the heroes and all of the landscapes and collectible packaging, if you will, as well. The main incentive is, this deluxe edition, which doesn't have, I don't think, any card exclusives right now, at least, but Cryptozoic has definitely done that with some of their other products on crowdfunding, but it's more the deluxeification of the storage more than anything. So they give you just the simplest breakdown here, and they show you how the mechanics are working. You can check out the rulebook if you really want to, but that's a nutshell. There's an RPG to go along with it, but, yeah, some of this stuff isn't available at retail. But I don't think it's necessarily doing something as unique card game wise, CCG wise, as you may want. So you're really going to have to be probably more of a nostalgic and can't get it on the secondary market rather than anything else. I mean, a few promos. I mean, like I said, Cryptozoic, that's kind of what they've done with the DC stuff with that deck building game, but nothing like make it or break it as a whole, because you're still looking at a relatively higher cost point for shipping in addition. So, I mean, it's fine. It's, definitely striking while the iron is empty on the reprint side of things. So $195,000 tells you everything you need to know there. You have people that are really junkying for it. So that's the week, right? Junkie for everything. Stacked, elevate your game. This is a 2 to 6 player game where you have these little circular tiles, as you can see in the picture here, and you just stack them on each other with some spatial rules, and you can just go until somebody can't play. And so then the last person who played on the stack wins. Essentially, you start out with these black tokens at the bottom, and they'll break it down here in a second. You have a couple different levels of the different shapes, but you can kind of see it starts with the black, and then you layer up some of these other ones. But the tricky point is you can't lay one on top of another that is the same. So if you have a shape of 3 and then a shape of 2 on top of that, another shape of 2 cannot be placed directly on top of that. It has to go elsewhere. You can't start a new level, though, unless you have at least 3 pieces on that level already, unless that is the only play whatsoever. And then it's just sort of you go until all but one person went. And that's about it. Now, again, 2 to 8, I guess. I look at this as, especially if you like abstracts, I mean, this seems really, like it says, visually captivating, but I really worry that you're going to be stuck, and the board state is going to change so dramatically that, especially with only 2 to 5, 2 to 6 pieces, maybe different sized at most, that the variety and the creativity just might not be there if you're looking at it from that aspect. And I think that this is a game that's probably going to play best at 2 or 3. Can you imagine playing this as 8 people going around the table? I think that would be horrible. The AP, but also the change of the board state by the time it gets to you, You know, you could have 2 or 3 people play the same piece before you and never have a chance to get the piece out that they just played. That would be my fear. I mean, I don't know if it's a great value. So I didn't even look at the price point yet, but I mean, $35 for the family edition, also getting cubed. Why do I want cubed? Okay, that's really weird. Get 1 copy of the Elite, the advanced version, for the same price. So if you're just getting it early enough, you can get the same price of the Elite as the regular edition, which has about 183, it says, left of 1,000. So I mean, it sounds fine, and it's only in 48 hours, so they're just going to cut it off. But here you can see those different layered pieces, and you get a certain number of each of them, and you just lay the foundation down, and you build it up as you go. And so there's not a whole lot else to it. I mean, it's spatially abstract in nature, but again, a lot of abstract games, like 2-player best. Everything else, not quite sure. Your mileage may vary. Especially if you're hardcore strategy, it's not going to necessarily be, I would think, as a higher level as much as you'd want. Cubed, there you go. You can check that out too. And that's everything. You're going to get it a year from now, and it's got $77,000. It's still pretty good, though. So take that for what you will. And next up is Acrylogic. This is just a twist on Sudoku, if you will, with sort of a number meets color style, which was over in one of the magazines over in France. I'm forgetting which one here. It'll tell you on the page. It goes through all of it. But that is from and inspired by Sudoku. You have 3x3 and 4x4 grids where you get either a number or a color in between these white side boxes. And so it's going to tell you how to make that combination, right? Like certain colors make certain other colors combination wise, right? Like prime colors, red, yellow, blue, making all of the other colors. Or it gives you a number, and so you know if the number is 7, you may have a 4 and a 3, you may have a 2 and a 5, or whatever it may be in combination. And so you then gradually fill it out because you can only have 1 in each row, column, etc. And they put it out in Filamag, and they were getting a bunch of responses saying, hey, where can we get more? Well, you can't until you get the next magazine. So they decided, we're just going to make a book of it. And they're already funded. 1,400 people. 1,400 people. That's great. That's why we're talking about it for only €2. I think this is really cool. My kid just came home tonight from his, trail life or whatever it was activity that he had. And he's like, hey, Dad, you want to do Sudoku with me? I just experienced Sudoku. I like it. Do it with me. I'm like, okay, kid, we can do some Sudoku. Dad's pretty good at math. So right parent to talk to about that one. Hitting the real good buttons on smoothing over, right? If you read it through once or twice and then see what they're putting down here, it makes a lot of sense. And then that's just it. So this is one, honestly, I wasn't planning on backing, but for 24 pages of this, you play it solo, you can do speed, you can like race if you get more than 1 copy and see who can do it faster. But I mean, if you want to print and play it as well, you can right now. So €2 for the price, €2 for the shipping. I mean, if you have any interest in this whatsoever, this is a different level, different aspect Sudoku with a board game twist. That's why we're talking about it so early in the video today. I love it. There you go. So, Red Palace limited edition. I don't know. Queen Games, you're taking crazy pills here. I really wanted to get into the Red Palace, the Alhambra version, because they were bringing essentially a different spin on it. And as someone who's never owned Alhambra, I was like, okay, I'm intrigued. No videos, no rule book, very little information, very few updates, few and far between, even before the Pledge Manager closed, as it just is like in the process or just finished delivering about like the last month or so. And now, literally like a month after delivery, they're saying, hey, guess what? We just kind of remade it again in a limited edition and we made everything bigger. And for some reason, we decided to make it compatible with the Mega Box. So it fits in the Mega Box and you want 3 additional expansions. Well, great. You can do that. Or you can also just pay another $30 to make your edition somehow match the edition that they're putting out here. Right. And I think the other edition was something along the lines of anywhere between $40 and $60. I'm not looking it up in the middle of this video, but that's a whole lot of price point considering the game itself is, $78. And that's a lot of money, though, for Alhambra with 3 expansions before shipping. Like, you need to love this game. If you go over to the Gorgon Geek page here, it doesn't even have enough ratings or comments to even get an average rating right now. 21 ratings. And in case you're wondering what's different, well, you have guards that stand along the wall to give you extra bonus points, and you have sort of a mixing and matching of the tiles of what buildings go on what tiles, or as opposed to always having a static combination of the two in the base game as a whole. And they even say down here, I don't know if this is new or not, or this is why they're addressing it, right? All of the expansions on Alhambra can be added to the Red Palace, except currently the tile-based expansions from the Mega Box because of the different size of the tiles. And so 45 versus 50, 5 millimeter difference. Whew, oh boy. And otherwise it's an unknown. 3 expansions where, you know, again, if you go over to the mega box reviews of Alhambra in the first place, of like the 10 expansions in the box, people are like, yeah, these are the 1 or 2 I always play with, and the rest are kind of meh. And that's what I worry about with something like this too. Even as someone who love this, I also don't really feel like I want to pay for extra storage boxes, right? That doesn't appeal to me whatsoever. As someone who's trying to get in, make a base level retail version of things. It doesn't have to be deluxeified. You know, if you put out a base version of this for $30, do it. Why not? Why are you not? That boggles my mind sometimes. I guess you really want to limit the base in that sense. And I'm sure there's production, I'm sure there's cost issues, and they run you through again, the most basic information of this, and they offer some of the variety here with the extra 4 guard available actions. The rules are there. Very old videos on Alhambra itself, which is kind of weird again, right? Like, this is different than Alhambra. You're marketing it as being different from Alhambra so you can still get it. But then you link to videos that only talk about Alhambra, and one of them is the tabletop video, which is probably the farthest thing from how you are ever going to play Alhambra in the first place. They run you through a little bit what the expansions are going to bring, but that's it. That's it. Shipping is fine, you know, but the price is significantly higher than I think it should be as well. Like, this is deluxe level Euro metal coins style of pricing. And for a game that just got delivered within the last month, and there's not really any wide availability of how this game plays or what it compares to or anything in that regard, I have to say pass as well. So show me more info, you know, send me a copy to review, but right now, that's a lot of money. That's $100 to spend on this as a big unknown. So there you go. Next out from Leader Games, Ahoy, a New Horizons expansion. They're going to be offering 2 different things from this, a new mini expansion as well as a big box expansion. The difference here is that you can also get the base game if you want to incorporate it and support the publisher on the crowdfunding side of things. Because when I looked up in a Board Game Oracle, it's going to cost you anywhere between about $35 and $40. And the base game addition to the expansion content here is also going to cost you $40. So it's sort of a wash. And if you want to support them, you're going to get all of this little stuff right here. 4 new factions, metal coins, as well as a little mini expansion content that they say is usable in any game. It's 2 to 4 player, build up to larger asymmetric games that you might be more familiar with from a Leader Games in their styles of, say, Root. But the interesting thing here is, again, they market it as a 2 to 4, but when you look at it, the 2 player, you're always playing with like one of the 2 main factions. So what you're getting with this expansion content is an additional faction with each of the 2 player modes, because like one is blue and one's yellow or something along those lines color wise. And so then you have 2 options as the blue, 2 options as the yellow, and they give you 2 more additional expansion factions as the smugglers. And the smugglers, though, are only used in the 3 and 4 player game, which ultimately makes me think, if you're looking at this from a 2 player standpoint, like I would be potentially, this game is kind of a pass right now. And I'd love to play this with 3 or 4, but I have a hard time getting that player count consistently. And I would feel really bad if you buy this base game and you have 2 factions that you can't use, or you're buying this expansion and you're getting 2 more factions you can't use. So it kind of reminds me of Cascadia, right? Where Cascadia Landmarks now have the expansion for the 5 to 6 player thrown in with the new gameplay content. It's kind of got the same thing going on here. Now, again, I'm never going to make the argument that it's a bad price on Leader Games. They price it out, just like I said, really well. I have no doubts that if you back even at this New Horizons level of the $50 that it is, that it's going to be more at retail. They've been very consistent. They've been very straightforward about that approach whatsoever. They give you 2 of the faction breakdowns here of the yellow and blue ones. The Blackfish Brigade, where they have a whale pod that surges across. The Shellfish Rebellion literally shoots their own character pieces across the board. They give you 2 smuggler options here as the Leviathan that goes and eats stuff. And then the Coral Cap Pirates here as well that hire more crew and, you know, get uniquely equipped frigates. So a couple previews here, which is interesting. I don't know that these are previews, or I thought maybe more impressions. I didn't know Lord of the Board did previews. So anyway, he's a big Leader Games guy, and so you're going to get a lot of information from his channel. Go check it out if you want. Again, and then a few comments and quotes about the base game itself. Runs you through the base game stuff, print and play if you really want to, and they throw some of the 2-player faction and tabletop simulator out there if you want, but that's about it right now. So I had to go over to the Board Game Geek page to be able to talk to you about the rules, because essentially what you're doing on your turn in this asymmetric game is you have 4 actions that are represented by 4 action dice that you roll at the beginning of the game, except if you're, I believe, one of these factions right here, the Orcas, or one of the ones in particular, the base game as a whole. I'm forgetting which one it is. You take 1 action per turn on your asymmetric faction board. Most of them are going to require the dice that you're using, and some of them may require certain numbers of dice, and there's going to be booty, and you're going to be able to, you know, go back and forth and battle each other using your cannons. Your cannons are going to be like spun down essentially, but you're going to have ways to recharge them, and the combat is kind of roll a die and add your actions or your bonuses to it, and the winner gets, you know, other people's fame and rewards. So the combat is maybe the make it or break it for you in this game as a whole if you're looking at it from that aspect. But the asymmetry is there, the barrier to entry is there. It's just whether or not you are sold on this in the first place and you want all of this stuff separately. Because again, if you only want, say, the New Horizons, or you only want the mini expansion, again, you're probably going to be better off waiting for retail. Speaking of seafaring, though, and we'll stay with the seafaring right here, going over to Gamefound, almost at its funding goal, 28 of $32,000, we have Sea Beasts. This is a 1 to 2 player asymmetric cooperative, sort of gives me a little bit of Sky Team vibe in the sense that it is that player count and a light cooperative game. What you're going to be doing is moving one of your chosen asymmetric Vikings, one of potentially 4, that is going to be moving around this boat, trying to move across like a Guild of Merchant Explorers style roll and write land. And as you go into those locations, you'll have various bonus actions, rewards, or even having to draw cards that may be producing monsters that are going to slowly encircle your ship. You may be encircled. You may also just have to battle them if you're in the same spot. You're going to be trying to knock them out and get their blood, which is going to also be one of the 2 main resources that you're utilizing to take your actions on your turn, because you have a 5 phase turn that you're taking on a round by round basis. And essentially what you're doing again on your asymmetric faction or player board is utilizing blood and sweat, represented here by the red and gray tokens respectively, to take the actions that are available to you. And as you do that, you're going to be trying to not only position yourself in the right place around the ship in order to fend off attacks, but also manning shields, as well as being cooperative, and that you can also bolster your compatriots' defensive actions or optimization in terms of their attacks. And so that's going to be sort of trying how you balance things, because as the monsters attack, you may take damage in the form of water or health damage. If your boat takes on too much water, you lose the cargo that you're transporting across. And if you lose all your cargo, you lose via the water mechanism there that they're utilizing. They run you through the 4 different right here. If you want specifically the merchant done as the solo character, the standard edition is going to be $50. The upgraded deluxe edition, which includes an expansion, is going to be $85 here. And you can see that you're also going to be getting a little bit of deluxification go along with that as well at the $85 mark. Here's the fog expansion, which is adding a new legendary beast and new beasts as well. And then you get miniatures at the super deluxe, and these look cool because I think they're painted, actually, at least that's my assumption, because it's going to cost you another like $60 to get that, or $60 additionally as an add-on, because you can add on the individual expansions down here, as you can see, with the upgraded components that are individually available as well. A few new beasts and a few new Vikings, so hopefully they hit that to offer some more asymmetry and more content value, because then, you know, I make the argument that maybe the expansion isn't actually necessary as a $50 pledge mark. But as a 1 to 2 player game, it's going to be more heavily dice determining, and it may or may not be your ilk if that's what your preferred game style is. Still, I mean, it's going to be $70 for the shipped version of this. So this is another indie style game, like I mentioned previously, and you're going to have to love it and really want to support your indie publisher on this one, just from that price point alone, like several of these others this week. And that's okay. And maybe have it by the end of next year if you're lucky. But that is Sea Beast. Check it out if you are so interested. Firesiege, my other video from earlier in the week. A tabletop cooperative asymmetric tower defense style game where you have 3 lanes that basically encircle a center area, and you're going to be putting your heroes into those lanes defending against the, well, it says unlimited hordes, but realistically one of the lose conditions is you run out of enemies. So that's what you have to do. Or the enemies get to the center, you lose. Or one hero dies and you lose. You win by achieving a total of 6 banner objectives. But those banner objectives of the 6 are not like 6 individual ones, because some of the banner objective cards may give you anywhere from 1 to 6 of the total banners that you need if you can accomplish it more than once, or if it's just harder in the first place. You have asymmetry with the characters that you're going to slowly use to unlock as you gain energy. Now, the tricky twist with this game is, and the clever mechanic that they're going for here, is the limited communication from a cooperative side of things to negate the alpha gaming. And why that's important is because you've got double-sided tiles you will be pulling from a bag, and you'll have 3 of them on your little stand here in front of you in the first place. And so when you look at those, you can see the white side. Everybody else can see the black side facing them, or facing your partners, if you will. But you don't know what side is on the other. And so when you choose the white tile as the actions you are going to take on that turn, because it could have 2 or 3 actions on that, of, you know, placing troops, moving troops, gaining energy, gaining actions, moving the mercenary track, because you can hire mercenaries. There are going to be nests that are going to be spawning. There are going to be warlord bad guys that are going to be spawning. You know, all of this sort of level of bad guy increasing as you go along the game. You can breach walls because, like I said, those 3 lanes, well, the bad guys can't get between them, but you're also stuck between them. So you can breach walls to help your compatriots. But if you breach the walls, they are also going to go through, because it's a smart AI system, meaning it's not going to just stay in its lane. It's going to go wherever is the quickest to get to the center in the first place. And because it spirals, it's not going to be a straight line. So there will be a quicker path if you're breaching in the wrong area at the wrong time. That's kind of what they got going on. Asymmetric scenarios, there's going to be somewhat of a campaign mode. I didn't have a chance to play the campaign mode, so I can't speak to that. You have awaken abilities that you flip over. They give you both an active and a passive ability that are available if you spend enough energy, say for your active one. You have 4 different energy tracks that at least that you're going to be taking care of and trying to manage that will allow you to play certain actions or your powers in the first place, or even to awaken. And you're going to have a health and attack that's going to be available as you go. The attacking is probably going to be the most divisive element of things. If you want, you sum up how much attack you have in, say, an area where the bad guys are as well, and then you sum up the health of those, and you get to pick and choose, okay, I have 7 attack, well, I can take out a 4 and a 3, or I can take out a 3, a 2, and a 2. But sometimes you have to prioritize depending on the bad guys there, and so it gives you a little bit of something different. And this is an indie game as well, and you're not going to get this probably widely available on the secondary market. You're going to get some deluxeified things here as well, and a little bit of exclusive content, they say, in addition. So let's see what we got going on here. I mean, that's expensive. That's expensive. That's more expensive than I figured. But what are you getting along with that? You're getting the miniatures expansion. Okay, that's cool. I like that they separated out. That's awesome. You're separating out both of those things. Ballad of Fire and the Azure Tower are both expansions in addition. What are these? Again, just a beautiful tower. Is it going to give gameplay content too? Nope, I can't tell from that aspect of things. But then the Ballad of Fire expansion here as well. New elements, new fire within the Citadel, new enemies. I mean, so that's kind of cool. I like that. I said in my video I wouldn't have minded some more asymmetry with the characters themselves, and maybe this expansion gives that. I hate having an expansion that does that. At the same time, if it's an expansion that you're never going to play without, well, that's, you know, another consideration as well. But that's expensive. But that's miniature too. So, okay, 130 euros for miniature-based game. Okay. You need to love it, though, for a cooperative sense. Is it doing something different? It is. Is it going to be different enough for you? That's the question you got to ask yourself. I've got my copy sitting right next to me. I'm not kidding. Right here. Right here. See? Firesiege. So give them a look-see. Give them a shout-out. Tell them Leech sent you. And see whether or not it's right for you. So got some cool stuff going on. And you can check it out in a whole if you want more from my video or at the beginning of the week as well. This is a huge page. Holy graphics on this page. Holy graphics. You get down to the videos. I don't think mine's on there, but that's okay. Check out the other ones. They give better opinions than mine. Like I say, always go listen to other people instead of me. So there you go. That's Firesiege, and it is almost funded at the time of me filming this, right? It'll be funded by the time you guys watch it as well. Next up, Wasabi from Kids Table Board Games. Staying with the food theme, staying with that aspect of things, the very cute food theme. This is the reimagining, the different aesthetic with a slightly different gameplay mechanic for this game. I don't know, from like 5 years ago or so, maybe a little bit longer than that. I can't really remember offhand, but Wasabi, and with the soy sauce expansion that you're getting here, and like with all of their other previous crowdfunded projects, you're getting a little bit of slight deluxeification along with a little bit of extra gameplay to go along with it. And they've streamlined it, and they've taken out some of the randomness, which I feel a little bit, you know, divided about, because the main element of this game, essentially what you're doing is you're taking these food tiles from the left side and you are just placing them down anywhere you want on this grid. And what you're doing is you're gonna have recipe cards in your hand, a total of 3 potentially. And when you create the right combination, the right pattern, if you will, going back to the bullet side of things, you get to score that many points. You get like a wasabi cubes, which are additional points. If they're in any combination, like if it has to be ABC and you have it CAB, well, it's still the same 3 in the same, you know, set of area, but you get the wasabi points, cubes, if you will, if it's in ABC order as opposed to CAB order. and you just go until you fill up this whole board. Now, one of the things they've changed though is that this pantry is just going to be open and available, so you can just draft anything. In the previous game, I believe there was only like a set, like limited number, or you were drawing off the top, or you were having like only a few market-wise available to you. So they've gotten rid of that to address the criticism of pure randomness, not being able to make your set collections essentially better. You've got other equipment over here that's going to allow you to manipulate the board in the first place. Things like the switch here, where you can like switch things on the board itself is one of your actions, or you can redraw up or even discard in order to get more wasabi, because there's going to be a general wasabi pool that you can also grab in a nutshell to give you additional points. The teacup here are spots, I don't know, I mean, they're like placeholders, and I guess just why not even just get rid of them in the first place? That's the thing I didn't really understand. More recipes, more action cards, and you just make the recipe lengths the way you want to. And the strips, I guess, were finicky before the recipe cards. So, I mean, it's a solid game. It's just whether or not it's going to be for you. Again, they offer you slight duxification, as I mentioned, the micro expansion with the soy sauce here, and then a little bit of everything else. They're already hitting a few stretch goals. By the way, that, yeah, it does look like poop. And this is funny, actually. I have to say this. They changed this. This had only the poop one earlier. When I looked at this earlier this morning, or earlier this afternoon, getting ready to do this video, and they've changed it in the 6 hours since I looked at it to make it look like it's going to be something different, because I guarantee you that's probably what was in the comment section of other people going, this looks like poop, because that's what I said in my internal monologue. Yes, I'm an internal monologue person. I have an internal monologue. Are you one of those people? Because apparently there's some people that don't internally monologue. Those people are the strange ones. You want their other food-based games though? Here you go. Dice Veggies, their recent retail release. Food Fighters, I didn't even know that was a game from them, but there you go. Tells you how to play it. It's really straightforward. The rulebook is really short. You want to watch some preview videos, they've got a few linked here as well if you want. And that's it. Shipping is going to be okay. So you're going to pay for slight deluxifications with your shipping, and whether or not you want the little extra mini content. So Kids Table board game looks like a solid offering. No question why it funded at this point, but it's going to be a little lighter overall, even with the changes, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Check it out. Queen's New Capital. I have a mea culpa. I have a copy of this sitting behind the camera. I swear that I never got a date of that. So I owe them a big apology. I will have a video out giving you my thoughts on this game from an indie style of things. I'll tell you right now off the top of my head, it looks pretty surprisingly good. But it's not funded at the time of me filming this, but it will be funded by the time you check it out. The big question though is, as this game is out there, it's expensive from an indie game, right? You're looking at this and you're paying $50 for a card-based engine building game with 3 advanced modules. I like what the modules are adding because they're offering some more asymmetry and some more speeding up of the game. But your deck building, engine crafting in this game as a whole, and those are mechanics that I just love in the first place. And it's very simple and very straightforward. You have 6 cards. You choose Fuhor to play in your hand. You're going to be slowly building up your grid of structures, leaders, and advanced action cards to essentially build your engine over many turns. You're going to be having this warfare crisis that's going to be faced individually by a player. It reminds me sort of like the Seven Wonders Duel-esque thing, or one of my other kids' games, where you have to total up how much you get at the end of each round, and depending on how you do is going to affect what bonus or what failure you get. And then you're adding up all these attribute symbols and you're trying to go up and win bonuses on these scoring tracks. And it's a little bit deluxified, but I think it looks like, again, an absolutely fantastic product. The aesthetic reminds me actually very much of the other game going on crowdfunding right now that's killing it, Old King's Crown. And it just looks awesome. Here's the game manual. Again, in the short time between prepping and getting this video actually filmed, they added the game manual available besides just the tabletop simulator, so you can check it out if you want. So the summary of this game, when you go over to the rulebook, it gives you the win condition. You have to get a set amount of each of the recognition seals. As you move along these tracks, you get attribute points. When you get to a certain spaces on it, you're going to get additional actions or free actions. And then also, like I mentioned, draw 6, play 4, pass it around though, until everybody's played their 4. So it's going to be a pickup, draft, pass. 3 different types of cards that are going to be available to you. The improvement in the green, the warfare in the red, and the political in the blue, all offering different aspects. Some of them are played face up, some of them are played face down. You're also going to be acquiring advanced action cards that are going to be very similar, but just better overall. You're also going to have available vertical action track that's going to be in the center of the board that gives you 4 more different types of actions: support, faction, scouting, as well as resupplying. And you can still play your card in the turn if you're able to do that in addition. I mean, I need to get this to the table more, and I'll give you my full opinions and full thoughts on it before the end of this campaign, hopefully sometime in the middle of the next week. And again, like I said, I owe them some mea culpa because I wasn't expecting this to launch and I just may have missed it. And either way, we're going to hype it and talk about it and give you more details on my opinions on it. They run you through the advanced modules down here, the guild masters, the faction heroes, as well as the dilemmas. The guild masters are going to basically giving you different abilities and buffs to, give a little more asymmetry. The faction heroes, well, you draw 2 at the beginning and, place them down as essentially more asymmetry. And the dilemmas, well, doesn't really say anything about the dilemmas except for the fact that there's going to be a new deck as well as crises and dilemmas that you're going to be playing on a round by round basis. So overall, I'm intrigued by it. So we're going to see. I'm a little anxious looking at all these symbols, learning all those and how intuitive they're going to be and just how similar they're all going to be. But I'll let you know very shortly. So anyway, there you go. Queen's new capital. Check it out. Next up, Wish. Again, just funded, almost at $10,000 at the time of me filming this. You are going to be taking your genie, your Jinn, and you're going to be traveling all over the land, and you're going to have an asymmetric power that's going to be available to you, and you're going to be taking actions on your individual player board and choosing which of the actions that are available to you, because you have about 3 essential spaces on your Jinn board in the first place that are open, but each of them has a split, and you choose one of the 2 on each of those splits. As you unlock, you get more available actions, and you actually get an advanced action that has a better plethora of actions in the first place, not being done just a split, but being able to play 2 at once. And so what you're going to be doing is you're moving around into these clouds, and these clouds are going to have several different aspects that you're going to be able to utilize. On the left side of the cloud, it has an individual asymmetric ability of that cloud. In the middle, it's going to give you gems that you collect. On the right side, it's going to have different colored meeples, and those different colored meeples are going to need to correspond to the crystals, which are going to be used in order to, basically fulfill the wishes. But you can only fulfill the wish if the color of the wish matches the color of the meeple of the cloud you're at. Because if you have a red wish that is fulfilled by several of the, 3 gems and it gets you 4 victory points, but you have to also then be at a cloud here that has the red meeple on it. Then you take a red meeple. Those meeples can consequently also be turned into monuments, or paying for monuments that are going to make your engine builder better, that you can see right there. Haha, did the GIF in a nutshell. There's going to be a more asymmetry that goes along with each of these Jinns. For example, the Jinn here, the water one gets 4 in the upper left-hand corner, which is the hand size, because at the beginning of the game, you're going to have 4 cards, but then you actually, discard down to 3, but it's going to have 4 at all times, and all of them are going to give you slightly asymmetric actions and abilities and options. Like the fire one has a clone, and he can take actions at the spaces where his clones are located, essentially. And so the rulebook actually runs you through all of that. It's actually one of the longer rulebooks this week. It's a 28-page rulebook that you need to check out, but it's got enough asymmetry. But if you really want to look at how you're going to be essentially resource management and resource exchanging between, like I mentioned, the actions, the crystals, the meeples, and then the monuments, you're gonna have to give it more of a look-see on the video side of things. I love the fact that they're going with the wooden meeples. You know how I feel about that. I love the little grid here. I wish more campaigns did that because it just gives you a better sense. I mean, you can get a relatively decent sense. I don't know if I go over that far on the family side of things. It looks like maybe more of a between a yellow and a green, more than anything else. I would say it's maybe a little bit more of a yellowish for the game length too, because like if you're really having to do that much conversion, that's going to be the issue. Now, the reason why it might be a little bit closer onto the red is because this game is also set, and this may be the other divisive component for you, is that every turn, every round, right, every person gets a certain number of actions. They do their turn, they move their Jinn, they do those actions that I just mentioned, their conversions. But at the beginning, you like flip over a card, essentially, or the equivalents. I'm forgetting exactly what it is. But it tells you to move this caravan along the map a certain number of spaces. And when the caravan reaches the end, that's when the game is over. And so you don't know how long the game is going to be, because it might move at 1 space, it might move at 4 spaces, and so you're going to have to be really preparing quickly in order to deal with that and what's available to you. Enough video content there in all sorts of languages, and it gives you a rundown and a breakdown of what it's going to be. Again, it's an indie-style game. North America shipping is going to be between $10 and $15, and it's going to cost you about $45 right now as a whole, but the Kickstarter edition is going to cost you almost $50. And that's double layered premium sleeves add-on to go along with that. Anyway, take it for what it is. Really a good indie looking game, and so funded at the time of me filming this. Check it out. Next up, Monasterium Deluxe. I talked about this one. I put a video out a couple weeks ago. The original campaign launched. It canceled because it was not anywhere near its funding goal, and it relaunched now as a Euro-style worker placement with dice. And essentially what you're doing is you have dice that you're going to be rolling at the beginning of the round, then you allocate them to certain areas, and then you draft them back and utilize those numbers that they are in, combination of potentially as many as you can get in one turn, because you can only grab so many, but you also have to grab from your own color back to your player board, which has about 5 or 6 columns and about 4 rows that you're going to be managing there as a whole, unlocking certain actions, upgrading certain actions, and then also just having more cost as it gets more unlocked. You're also going to have a player board on the right side, which is sort of a stained glass sort of situation, where as you're pulling the actual stained glass pieces from the different monasteries as you move across the board, you're going to be filling that in order to achieve bonuses either when you fill a row or a column. But the main mechanism of action is that when you're taking those actions to unlock other actions on your board, you're pulling your meeples or your workers and you're placing them into one of 3 different areas in the monastery in the first place. You have like the chapel, and then you have the inner cloister and the outer cloister, and there's only so many spots of each of the colors of the outer cloister, and so more outer cloister spots are going to fill up very quickly. The inner cloister spots are going to be harder to fill, but there's going to be less of them, and so you're going to be gradually going along. There's upgraded to the deluxifications here with the wooden components and some of the visual aesthetics there to go along with that, as we see with the deluxified things now. And you get the upgradable actions as well based on the numbers, because you have a generic action you can take as well that if you are unlocking at a certain level, it flips it over. So then anytime, say, you then take a number 2 dice or a 2 pip-sided die that's face up from that area, then maybe you get a victory point for doing that if you have the upgraded action to go along with it. So it's a little bit of combination of what you need, what you get, and everything else there. Rado talked about it, I think like 2 or 3 years ago, because this was released in Europe at that point. And so this is actually, I believe, just for North America, which, yeah, I mean, it's a solid game. So take it for what it is. I'm not quite of that caliber to get on the pages, but you can always check me out over Board Game Geek. So there you go, Monasterium. Hopefully it gets more traction, but it was one of those where I think it's just kind of falling through the cracks. It's not a bad game, but it just doesn't always get the hype nowadays compared to some of the newer, hotter stuff. So we'll see where it goes. Next up, Frayed Ally. This one's funded. Again, give it a couple hours. It goes from completely unfunded to completely funded at this point. So what you're getting here is a 2-player dueler. The problem, though, is I don't really get the best sense of how you're playing. You have your asymmetric character card that you're taking, and then you're going to be drafting these cards and playing them to basically take out your opponent. But it doesn't really give me the best flow of what you're going to be doing. Yeah, we have 3 different types of action cards that you're going to be taking: offensive and defensive and trap. The offensive can be played on your turn. The defensive times can be played on any person's turn. And the attacks are just going to be slowly knocking out your enemy as you go along. Problem, again, at the time of me filming this, is I really can't give you a whole lot more than that, right? It talks about the mechanisms of drawing and attacking and using the actions, and you maybe can figure out what they've got. Deduction, like you don't know what characters are in play, so how can you actually deduce? Anyway, it's just hidden information. That's really what it should be called. Villains, minions, and rivals, and then the special abilities that are available to you after you get down to 1 life point. You get a special ability that you can use essentially once per game. Traps, okay, great along with that. And then they run you through a little bit of what it looks like. I mean, I don't mind the aesthetic whatsoever, but I think they have a link to their game page over here, like the actual game page, which has a little bit more actual information on the gameplay itself, because otherwise they talk about stretch goals and, jackets up there, which, I'll be frank, I don't need anything jacket-wise from a game. Unfortunately, when I click over on Board Game Geek, it has just Shelf Clutter's 1-minute clip and a trailer for it, and even their website doesn't have really easy access to anything more detailed. I mean, it's great that, testers have liked it, but when I've got something going up head-to-head with it right now, like Wizards of Grimoire or Singularity, which has tons of more information and tons of more just what am I actually getting out of this for, about the same price, Wizards of Grimoire, I have a hard time saying go and get this. Now, I don't think it looks bad, but I really like to know more information. And how much money am I really spending on the acrylic standees? As much as I love acrylic standees, 2 times the game for, slightly less than 2 times the price is a lot of money still at this point. So we'll see where it goes. I'd love to see more information as, again, a person who loves this style, but I need more. Show me more. Frayed Ally. Now we'll hop over here. Pengy Pals, Antarctica's Greatest Heroes, a cooperative dice rolling combat style game where you take the role of asymmetric hero penguins with special powers to fight evil essentially predator groups or enemies, if you will, in order to win. Albatross Alliance and the Walrus Gang, if you will. I actually really think that's catchy, to be frank with you. But it's a basic level cooperative intro style game, trying to get people more incorporated, as they say, as some of their other previous favorite games. I believe they mentioned Lord of the Rings LCG And I forget what the other game they mentioned on the pages of, you know, some of their favorite games are a little harder to get into, more from a casual style of things. So they basically created their own with a, you know, animal themed aesthetic. And what you're getting here is you're rolling dice and then you're allocating these dice in sort of a Castles of Burgundy-esque manner, right? You have these 2 of the dice that you're slowly putting out on your player board. It's unlocking actions, or it's being able to utilize these actions based on where you put the dice and how they correspond to the different areas that you're going to be doing. You're going to have basic generic actions that you get for the dice, as well as action-specific dice if it matches up to a certain area that you can take. Then you go around and you do the enemy react abilities depending on what you do to them in the first place. And then you get the ability to, well, have to feed yourself because you're going to have enough food as one of your actions as well. You're going to take further damage. Rinse and repeat until either you win or you lose. Action cards are separate, but again, you're going to have to be able to pay the cost for them as a way of using those fish that you're gathering up in your food source as a first place. And you basically have a superpower that can be unlocked as you level up your character. And then you regroup, rinse, and repeat. So gives you a little bit more information down here. They're donating $1 for every pledge to environmental penguin support, something along those lines. So it seems like the solid thing. It's a little bit lighter overall. It's over a third of the way its funding goal at this time, so that's why we're talking about it. Pengy Pals, check it out. Stan Lee's Genesis. It's over 200% funded at this point, but I don't really know how the game plays because there's no real rule book, and they basically just say it's, you know, superhero-esque, character-driven, with asymmetric abilities, but it's going to be basing that and using that in the sense of laying tiles down. And you're going to be trying to score points somehow using these characters' various points. And they run you through the core game and all this beautiful artwork and fantastic lore and hundreds of characters. And then you get the 3 expansions, which is awesome. And then you hit some mystery stretch goals here, which are going to come out whenever. You meet the creators, you know that it's done with Stan Lee's production company, and only then you get to how to play the game. And they get to it, but again, like all the graphic art is up there and there's no actual, you know, representation of media down here, which makes it a little bit hard as you're managing these 5 resources using the characters that you start with of 3 asymmetric abilities in order to use the dice that are going to determine which actions you can take, right? You roll a die, and depending on what you roll, you get one of these 4 actions: draw, place, or resource. And then you slowly resource manage then that as you go along. The die is going to be very heavy in the movement as well as the combat situation, because all you're doing is rolling a 1d6 and adding an ability to see whether or not you win or lose. And you're going to be getting a power rating. That's going to be how you win the game as a whole. So that's it, though. That's it. And it's a little bit lackluster. Shipping, again, it's going to be another $20. So even though the price point at the base game is $50, again, you're looking very similarly to CB, so what we just talked about, as $50 plus $20, $70 for this game. So take that for what you will. I mean, yeah, it's funded. Yeah, it's, you know, $13,000 at the time of me filming this. But is that enough information to help you figure out whether or not this is a game of interest? So check it out. Gap, Fast and Futuristic. Again, this is one where I wish there was more information on the page. I don't know how to play this game. I don't know what they're doing with this game. It seems like a cool concept. It seems like a cool indie creator, but I think that's why it's faulting right now at 13 out of $5,300, 27 backers. And that's a lot of money for 27 backers as it is. But essentially what you're doing is you've got 100 cards. You've got 9 suits of 10 different cards each, or 10 suits of 9 different cards each. Yeah, we'll go with that second one. And you play them in order to win somehow. But that's about it. You can get an expansion, you can get a playmat, you can get your own unique faction if you really want to pay a bunch of money. They said it's been tested thousands of times. Here you go, divided 10 suits of 9 cards each, 7 factions along with 10 special event cards. That's awesome. That sounds great. I like the aesthetic that they're going for. Go play it on Tabletop Simulator. But the problem is the link to the rulebook doesn't work. So you can go watch a subtitled Spanish video if you want to see how the gameplay looks. But again, I think that lack of what is this game dynamically from a card-driven aspect bringing, there's none of that on the page. I mean, I hope that in the near future the rulebook link will work so I can check it out. But also, why would I get this game, this card game, over any other card game of various size, ilk, or nature? I just don't know. It's not a bad price point. You can see $21 for the standard edition. That's pretty good for a card game. It's going to be $35 with the expansion. So again, not surprised at all from that aspect, but it doesn't have enough information on the page to make people come back and check it twice. So we need to see more soon, hopefully. Now, last up, Heroes of Ilirium. Again, sort of a trend here at the end. There's just not enough information on the page, and that's why I think it's only at 50% of its funding goal. As another basically 2-player deck dueler in the lines of more of a Sakura Arms, if you will, where you have all of your asymmetric various hero factions, and they each have like 10 cards, and you smash 2 of them together to make your deck. And you've got like 6 or 8 different types of cards that you're going to be managing, including monsters that you're going to be summoning. You're collecting souls to somehow win the game. New rounds are going to bring new battlegrounds and new obstacles along the way, and they run you through down here. You got 2 extra little expansions to go along with it. They're going to add 4 different separate decks with a whole bunch of extra cards, and then a premium deck dueling expansion down there. And you summon, you duel, you have fun? Question mark. Again, here are the cards: spells, auras, scrolls, books, gemstones, wild monsters that you can tame, battlegrounds that are different. I have no clue what any of those do, because the link to the rulebook here, as you can see, no link. It just is an image. So I'm not sure if that's just a whoopsie, but there's been one update at least since the time I filmed this, and you can just kind of check out the aesthetic if you want, because that's all the information that's on the page whatsoever in terms of what it's bringing. And the first update doesn't address that, so hopefully they will, because nothing in the comments as well says that they realize that the link isn't there for the rulebook, and you need something else to appeal to people, because similarly, record repeating itself here, why is this that unique? What are some of those things actually doing? How does a turn look? Where's the rule book? None of it, and we'll see if it can continue getting more backers if it puts out more information. Okay, that's it. That's the roundup this week. Tons of games, tons of time spent. Hopefully enjoyable, hopefully productive, hopefully helpful. That's all I got. I'm working all weekend, so yep. But I'm off pretty much all Thanksgiving week, so it evens itself out, right? My kids have a 5-day holiday weekend. They have not only Thursday and Friday off, obviously, but they also have Wednesday off. Like, school's just giving up. School's just like, we know half the people are going to be gone, and so we're not even going to schedule a day. I don't know. Interesting next week, though. Interesting, though, of the Thanksgiving week, because we still have a couple bigger projects that are launching. You have Steamforge's Horizon Forbidden West, The Seeds of Rebellion, that sequel from their previous one, which was kind of so we'll see what they've got new there. They put out a whole bunch of blogs, so you can check out the designer diaries and more information about the actual content. Huge pledges, including their Kickstarter exclusive stuff. But the other interesting aspect is we also have Nemesis launching at the end of the week. The end of the week there. And in between that, we also have Food Chain Magnet as well. So 3 big name projects. So you thought that the holiday wallet fattening was just from the turkey? Well, no, they're trying to lift your wallet and steal all your money because they know that you're going to go Black Friday otherwise. So they're, Black Friday and crowdfunding, if you will. We'll see what kind of deals come out online. I've never really found anything interesting Black Friday wise, game wise. Nothing, right? Like Amazon will have something. A couple of the web shops online will have something, but it's a lot of the generic stuff. It's, my wish list is curated right now, so I'm not looking for massive stuff anyway, which is thankful. Don't buy just to save, right? As you do on crowdfunding. You're not actually saving. You're buying more. You don't need more junk. That's why I do this video in the first place. Help you navigate it. That's all I got. Stay classy. Have a great freaking day. And upcoming this week, the Don't Buy the Retail List. You guys like that video. Don't buy the retail list of November. We did it. I talked also this past week about my 5 crowdfunding fails from this past year so far. Also, if I'm doing crowdfunding, I've got retail. So I've got both of those as well. So there you go. Ramble over. Have a great day. Stay classy. See you around. Chill out.